A rift has appeared in the world, making it unsafe. To save humanity from the potential consequences of this rift, the boy told him that there was no place for someone as useless and talentless as he was, because he was essentially trash, and the proof was that only 3 people, in a person. Blackstone thought about what he found strange about Jin's behavior when he first met him. Jin, tired and tortured, ran toward the servant, and he said that he had finished his race. It's already hard enough to run with all his strength, but to do 15 more laps on top of that, he almost died pushing his limits. Blackstreet. He knew there was something special about the boy, a quality he was sure existed within himself. It was pride and mentality, but the servant counterattacked, saying that they were 2 different things. Jin didn't like that look. He knew that he was trying his hardest, and that was his limit, and if he did less, he wouldn't have no effect. And if he did more, he would hurt himself. But he could look at his limit at any time, all his results and threshold of possibilities. So he looked at his status window. If he wasn't mistaken, pride and thinking were at a high level, and he realized for the first time that this might be his greatest talent. Although he never could have imagined it, and was reaching for his prize for the first time, Blackstone declared that the training was over, but he didn't want it to be. He didn't think so, and wanted to run a little more. Although his servant told him that his body was already exhausted, he stood firm, and said that he felt no pain in his legs or body, as if he had new strength. Blackstone wondered how it was possible to increase his level so much so quickly, and began to dissuade him. Although his skills had risen to level 15, no one knew what could happen to his body with that kind of exertion. It was unpredictable. They opposed his expulsion. Then, the guy they were mocking realized that his father, the elder he adored, and was so proud of, connected with Jin. But he didn't understand what was happening. He only knew his tasks, and had no idea who gave them to him. His soul was connected to someone. Sword, which is why he was familiar with all of its skills and techniques. He asked Jin about the strange aspect of his personality that he sensed emanating from him, a feeling of extraordinary hatred within him. This emotion had been growing inside him for the past 15 years. Their souls were connected, so he knew what he was speaking about. Therefore, he might know why he had returned and what he wanted, but would he be willing to help him? Then, after learning the truth after being underground, for 200 years, he began talking with Blackstone. Suddenly, the figure behind Jin told him that Kyun was right about him. That figure annoyed him with his manner of speaking before he swung his sword with excessive force. That voice reminded him of someone. The figure said that little jerk was wandering around. It was like he was humiliating him even before he even got back. Jin had flashbacks to the past, recalling times when he was humiliated by a bunch of guys stronger and more talented than he was. Baek Hun said that he would be interested in seeing the result of this pathetic training. Here he was, and Jin had to take roll call. Baek Hun told him that he was his Yunin, and he asked why he hadn't bowed his head to him yet. He ordered him to bow down before killing him. Jin bowed, but the guy continued to mock him, saying that he only understood orders when he was scolded, and asking why he wasn't training. Now, Blackstone was tired. Blackstone didn't understand who he had personally ordered his expulsion. The aggressor even said that he had volunteered to deliver the letter to his son himself, which enraged the monster was, and Jin explained that he was the 6th son of the Baek family. The servant realized that this was the oddball the contract mentioned. He seemed bored, and then Blackstone thought that Jin would take care of him soon, but only if he followed the instructions and practiced. Blackstone was invisible, and he came up behind Baek Hun and started touching his cheeks and eyes, making his face look ridiculous, which caused laughter from those surrounding him. They surrounded him. He started to tell Jin not to laugh, or he would beat him up, but a voice from outside told him to shut up. His father would be here soon, and shouldn't. I should have heard him talk like that. She was the direct heir to the Divine Sword, the second daughter of Bakwin Kion. She also addressed Jin, telling him that he would have a ceremony of aura manifestation, so he wouldn't dare embarrass everyone there. It was that day when he had the opportunity to return, which didn't make him not happy at all. Suddenly, it was announced to everyone that an old man was arriving. They all knelt before him and greeted him. He walked past all the students, and Blackstone asked Hin if he was his father, to which he replied yes. Blackstone admired a man as strong and intelligent as the old man, but the boy said that he wasn't the only one, that there were many people like that. Except for Bekop, Hun, the servant, told him not to worry, that this was only his first mission, and since he had handled it quite well, he would help him move forward, reminding him not to forget that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Hin, boy, by what he was hearing, The boys continued to mock him, calling him a talentless fool whose place was to work on the streets and not study with them. Started doing strange things that surprised Blackstone. He figured that Hin was trying not to relax and was training even now, especially when he already had advantages and, above all, needed to do his absolute best before Laura Blackstone's manifestation ceremony began. He explained that it was impossible. The boy took off and began to run. He wanted to become strong enough and complete all the tasks as quickly as possible. He wanted to start doing everything to surpass Bone Blackstone. The master thought he was crazy and didn't pay any attention to him. The consequences were unforeseen. Suddenly, a window appeared that, although it indicated that the student was not listening to his teacher, his physical capabilities had increased, and his endurance was even greater. He couldn't believe he could do it in such a short time. Blackstone had seen many different masters in his life, but it was the first time he had encountered one like this. When he encountered someone as dedicated as Jin, he was certain the system knew of Jin's abilities, but he was also aware that Jin's proximity to Blackstone was a significant factor. Jin. He examined it, and the servant explained that it was one of the contract's stipulations to be as closely connected to the master as possible. This system reminded him of a simulator, dating sims, so, because of this ridiculous situation, it could be his deathbed fantasy. Suddenly, the scoreboard indicated that, due to observing Blackstone's reaction to Jin, Blackstone, he had gained an additional 200 points. Blackstone was dumbfounded. It had never been possible for someone to accumulate so many points in such. It made no sense for him to continue studying, since he had reached the first rank at the age of 24, while Mockingbeard had done so at 14. He gave the order to a short amount of time, yet he himself hadn't even noticed. His magic sword honor had crumbled so quickly, but Jin was the one who pointed out that it had dissolved. When Blackstone was still young, he earned 500 points for completing the task. He could invest the points he earned into something, and Blackstone decided they should be used to increase his physical rank. The remaining points could be saved. As soon as he completed this, the screen displayed an increase in his stamina and physical capabilities, and something strange began to happen to his body. It felt like it was growing from the inside out, causing him a very unpleasant sensation. His body and his appearance began to reflect his rank and his achievements. The pain he was feeling stopped and transformed. This meant that he was quite weak before, but simultaneously strong, because he was able to endure everything. Then Jin realized that if he hadn't been able to withstand the pain, everything would have ended badly. This was evident in Blackstone's face darkened that night, and the old man gathered all the heirs for Laura's aura manifestation. Jung's first son failed, and everyone needed to know why. The fifth son was Baksoi, and the fourth son was Eslabon. Jin immediately got to work, and, to begin with, he was doing well. He remembered that before the regression, during the same ceremony, he had been completely unable to do anything. Now that everything has changed, he is much stronger and will be able to do it. Now he is more powerful than ever before. Suddenly, a task appeared before him, surprising Jeremiah. It instructed that, begin, and while the boy didn't understand anything and shouted for them to release him, the group grabbed him under the arms and restrained him. They had no other choice. He should manifest his aura not through his heart, but through the Dantan. Blackstone told the boy to have enough courage to do what was necessary. I asked him because he possessed an aura unique to the owner of a magic sword. This path would be unlike any other, diverging from the routes experts typically followed. His own path. Qin understood that he had to complete the task, even if only because it would influence his development. He started fulfilling the assignment in his own way, and to follow his own path, and everything started repeating itself. He realized that the aura needed to be activated through Danon, and Blackstone was indicating that it was his personal path, one that would be different from all others. After a moment, the room became filled with black smoke emanating from the orb. All the royal family members were surprised by the aura's color. It signified that there was a demon inside Jin. They fled to the side in fear. Bakwin Kion stated that he didn't know how it happened, but if there was a demon inside him, he would kill Jin. She immediately lunged at him with her sword, but Zheng's older brother prevented her from doing what she intended, resulting in her also receiving death threats. The black aura indicated that Jin had received it from a demonic family, but the brother said it didn't matter, that it was just the color of his aura, and that was all. Jin was surprised by what was happening. He had hired Blackstone and didn't possess a demonic magic sword. What could all of this mean? Yomu continued to prevent his furious sister from killing her. They had to take away from the boy what made him a part of the undeserving family. The boy asked what they were going to do, and the leader reminded him of two, little brother, stopping her from getting close to him and convincing her that things might not be as she thought. Their father observed everything and turned to Baek Divine, asking him what his intentions were and if he would allow him to draw his sword. They bowed before him, but the old man was very angry about everything and didn't give a damn. Permission to kill his own son, which Baek Divine wanted to do. The third son's aura might have been different, perhaps even demonic, but in this case, that wasn't the reason. It was a large amount of trained and pure aura power. Baek Divine begged his father for forgiveness, but he told him that, because of his hatred of demonic families, he would soon lose his mind. As punishment for drawing his sword, he ordered him to meditate for the next 6 months, and he obeyed. Jin understood that her father encouraged everything because of his daughter, including her way of dressing and the punishments. If he had been in that situation, he would not have been treated with. As delicate as Awakens is, he, therefore, needs to become even stronger to dominate this family. Jin was approached by the old man, who congratulated his son on the manifestation of aura, something he had never witnessed before. Jin shied away from the gesture. His father inquired why his son was keeping the magic in his dantian, and everyone asked the same question. Jin knew he had to come up with an answer to appease his father and prevent him from destroying his aura. He told him that he was different, not like his brothers, because he did not inherit Baek's talent. He was weak, so his heart was ill-suited for using magic, and that's why he does it through the dantian. His father told him that rules. The first was the vein in his right hand that he used to hold the sword, and the second was the aura of his heart. The boy began to actively resist, shouting he might inherit the fate of the excluded, since they don't allow magic to pass through their heart, and he would become exiled trash. But Jin said that was how it was. He would become stronger than ever, and those weren't empty promises. He would soon demonstrate everything in practice. At first, his father laughed, but then he said that, although it sounded arrogant, that was what he liked about Jin. He was going to be better than all his older brothers and reach the highest level of swordsmanship in the Bae clan. And if he didn't, he would die or live a horrible life. He told him to keep an eye on Jeremiah and announced that today's ceremony was over. Jonu looked at Jin's hands, telling him that the ceremony had been incredible and that he had managed to manifest such a dark aura, except, of course, that his sister wanted to kill him. At that moment, he asked his brother if he had ever trained an aura through Dantian, but the boy couldn't believe what Jin had done. He noticed a drastic change occurred in both his body and character. He was clearly more physically robust and stronger. Jin mentioned that he didn't train with the sword, but rather with endurance. Yonu didn't know it was possible to achieve such results from so much endurance training. However, he wished that his brother wouldn't give up and would continue practicing, because he couldn't do anything similar at his age. Jin had already promised their father, and before departing, his brother gave him a gift, a camille stone that would help Jin stabilize his aura in case of an emergency. The stone was expensive, but his brother gave it to him because Jin, that he wouldn't let them do it. He knew he was weak, but he always tried harder than the others in his class so as not to embarrass his family, even though trains hard, and this is his reward. Suddenly, Jin was called by Bimon Khan, who said that Jin had surprised his father in a very spectacular way at the fraud ceremony, showing everyone his special aura, but nevertheless he remains a weakling who can't do much more than that because he can't get the magic to penetrate his heart. He wanted to force Hin to follow him, but Hin wasn't going anywhere and refused to obey. Then BMK threatened to give him a beating like last week. Suddenly, Hin had a new mission, to get revenge on his abuser, something he had wanted to do for so long, but he didn't expect him to be so close right now. Blackstone said that these types of assignments would arise from time to time and that they should be done, since there is a quite high reward of 300 points and a surprise. Baek Myeon-kun remained firm in his stance, and Jin thought that, in a past life, this situation would have been different. Baek Myeon-kun said that maybe he had once pitied him, but Jin retorted that perhaps he was the one who pitied him, which made his brother even angrier with him, and punched him in the face with all his strength. He told him to decide where and how he would faint, in the warehouse from the workload, or here, after he hit him. He said that Jin was spouting nonsense to their father, claiming he would get stronger with his method, but that would never happen to a loser like Jin. Then the boy asked his brother what he even knew about life. Blackstone wondered if the Lord truly knew what. They treated him like a nobody and told him he had no talent. He always did what he could for his family, but the boys were stronger than him, and after, he was going to do, or if he was simply bluffing. Baek MK-kun was really acting like a little upstart, but their strengths were evenly matched. with Baek already on the verge of fury. MK-kun decided to teach his brother a lesson for his insolence, starting to throw punches. Even though Jin covered himself, MK-kun was still stronger and landed a punch. He punctuated the punch by telling him not to object or be insolent, or he would have to pay for his words. The fight continued, and just when Baek Myeon-kun was about to deliver a final blow, Jin grabbed his leg and punched his attacker. It was clear that Baek Myeon-kun hadn't expected to be punished for his actions in the same way. Jin was angry enough to end the fight, but suddenly he noticed that BMK-kun remained motionless. Apparently, Jin had disarmed him by knowing exactly where to strike, and now that BMK-kun was helpless, Jin could get revenge for all his insults and humiliations. He added 300 points for the task, plus a surprise. Blackstone is not. He expected something like that, which was evident on his face, but he still congratulated his teacher. He was surprised that Jin had been waiting for the opportune moment to attack because things seemed very different now. But no doubt, the bastard would be looking for Jin when he woke up. However, Jin believed that his brother had too much pride and too many fears, so he wouldn't seek him out for revenge, meaning he would have peace of mind for the foreseeable future. Blackstone then asked Jin if he understood, well, that the whole family had magic in their hearts, and he didn't understand why they didn't store magic in the energy core like he did. Jin responded that he had. A new organization was formed, comprised of users powerful enough to become humanity's leaders. Families were recruited to, silencing him so that nobody would hear his screams. They began to do what they had been ordered to do, saying it wasn't personal. They set out to fulfill their discovered that this method of energy storage was the most efficient. Everything was in the same place, but even though Jin chose that path, he said he had no other choice. He explained that he didn't want to repeat the mistakes of the past and that he wanted to commit to changing his life instead of destroying his Blackstone energy core. He thought that perhaps he was glad his previous life had been worthless and that he'd been given a better chance this time. He asked Jin again about the aura, and he brought up the energy core from his past life again. Blackstone was unaware of this and was stunned. Jin was now telling his servant that he had lived for 25 years and he had died, but had regressed back to the age of 15. Blackstone couldn't believe it. Jin had been bullied since he was a young boy, made to believe that he was a mistake, and now he had the opportunity to take revenge on everyone for the past humiliations and prove that he was worth more than all of them combined. He told them that he had been stripped of his powers and banished. He then wandered the streets where a massive ogre had once killed him. Now everything made sense. Logical for Blackstone, he asked what Jin's goal was, since he now had an ally as strong and loyal as he had never possessed before, and Jin contemplated his objective. He gathered his thoughts and declared that he wanted to become the best swordsman, to replace his father and become an elder, so he would change this family from within. Blackstone had anticipated such a response and was pleased. That was exactly what his master should be. The regression. Orders were given, and they decided to start with the aura of the heart. The child's scream could be heard from behind the closed doors of the room as the events unfolded. Had nothing to do with his contract, but it had already occurred. He would help his master become not only stronger than those who abused him, but the strongest of all. His entire family and all the swordsmen in the world depended on him to eliminate their enemies and carry out the instructions and tasks he had been given. He was more than prepared. He had already embarked on the path to achieving his goals. It was a good attitude, and he reiterated to Jin that, as his assistant, he would serve him and impart the knowledge that would transform him into the best swordsman in the world. A new task appeared: trust your luck and choose one of the cards provided. This was the reward for the surprise task. The reward for the aura would be granted later, once Jin was not sufficiently trained. Since the task was unexpected, the reward had to be chosen randomly, similar to a computer game. Previous Blackstone masters had always had bad luck with these rewards. Jun made his choice, and then the entire room glowed, and in his hands appeared. There was a sphere. It was a power perception pill. Blackstone was surprised because this pill granted a lifelong susceptibility to magical power. Magic, and a wretch like Hin, had just consumed it. He explained that this ability granted him the power to better perceive the power of others, and therefore, increase sensitivity to their aura. If he consumed the pill, it would increase his aura several times over. He asked the servant if the pill had any side effects, but, a year later, a huge house was engulfed in flames, and the people inside were screaming for help. But the fire wasn't the only problem. Blackstone was concerned that something so magnificent could have side effects. Remembering how he had been injured after his physical enhancement, Blackstone said it was because he wanted to improve his physical condition, and Jin, seeing no reason to refuse, quickly swallowed the pill. Suddenly, he felt nothing, which was because his sensitivity to force was at a rather low level. But that would change soon. Blackstone congratulated the boy on the work he had done today and told him to rest, saying they would continue tomorrow. Jin objected again, angering the servant with his stubbornness and his desire to achieve everything at once. It wasn't for nothing that he believed he could still continue, since he clearly had more strength than before. So Blackstone shouldn't insult him and should just continue training him. The man was watching them through the window, sitting in a tree, and he was clearly suspicious. Insult him and simply continue training them, as the man was watching them through the window, sitting in a tree, and clearly acting suspiciously. Something happened, and the doors opened. Moon Huyun greeted the old man and recounted the incident he had witnessed. The old man listened intently. Sincerely, he told him that Jin had defeated his older brother today without using any weapons or anything at all. His father was surprised by what he was hearing. Baek Kunun was quite strong, and Jin couldn't even properly utilize his aura. But the man said that Jin initially succumbed to his brother's attacks, but he chose the opportune moment and dominated his opponents. The father concluded that the younger son had simply been more cunning than the older one, and that's how he had won. After the unsuccessful fight, fire wasn't the only problem. There were monsters in the building hunting people. They approached people directly, who fled through the fire, screaming in panic. The Kunun isolated himself from everyone. His father called him a coward because he didn't even need to order his son to isolate himself, as he had already done so. While Jin was practicing in the room, the old man initially thought this confrontation would be boring, but things were becoming more intriguing. He ordered Baek to be brought before him. Kunun and the servant acknowledged his order. Meanwhile, the defeated brother was plotting how to get revenge on Jin. The next day, Jin was speaking with the servant about opening Laura. He had been contemplating it all night and devised a plan to expedite the process. Blackstone inquired about what he meant, and Jin set aside the Camille stone that his brother had gifted him and picked up a hammer. There was a specific method he intended to use. He shattered the stone with the hammer. Blackstone understood that Jin harbored animosity towards his family, but wondered if breaking the stone his brother had given him wasn't going too far. Jin said he wanted his older brother broke the stone, not out of hatred, but in an attempt to accomplish something. Magical power began to emanate from the stone. He explained that the power now enveloped him, and, when he trained, he absorbed this power, using Camille's stone, which floated in the air, in a rather peculiar method. He attempted to inhale it. The screen then showed points being added to his stats. Blackstone couldn't understand why he had been told about this method if the screen indicated that it was the first time it was being used. Could it be because this was the relative past, and in the future, where Jin had already died once, this method was now more common? The boy remembered what he thought was the most horrible thing about this expulsion from the Baek Divine Sword family. He couldn't believe that such horrible events. His aura would rapidly grow. Blackstone was pleased about this, as his restriction had now disappeared. What restriction is the first one referring to? The Blackstone seal was lifted, and it transformed into a sword, though not as large as he had hoped. However, as Jin trains harder, it will evolve from a simple dagger into a fully fledged sword. He instructed Jin to wield it. It was the first time he had wielded something like this, and he suddenly felt his aura diminishing. Blackstone explained that it wasn't simply a magic sword, as it was linked to its master. Jin needs to become even stronger to properly wield the sword and its magic. After all, as a rule, great power comes with great responsibility. He could barely push the sword away, and Blackstone reverted to his human form. Unsealing the first seal doesn't even unlock half of its abilities, so they will need to train further. It's not that he couldn't swing the sword at all, but he could barely manage it. Hold back because everything takes time and must be learned. He was only just beginning to discover his abilities. Here, he had already obtained an inventory, a kind of pocket dimension containing the things he needed and the objects associated with his aura. He was already a higher level. Right now, the size of the inventory was small, but the further he advanced, the better it would become. Jin wanted to train as a Noko to wield a sword. It was a rare sword, a magical sword. He opened the status window and saw that he had not completed the task despite having opened his aura. It could be because he wasn't strong enough yet. Horrible things could be compared to anything less horrible than this. Yes, it was definitely a terrible day. It started like any other day, and the guy was strong, so he prioritized completing the unfinished task. At that moment, the old man asked BM Kunun what had happened to his face. He didn't know what, answering back to his father, which angered him. He already knew about the shameful defeat for certain, but he immediately started to justify himself, saying that he simply He had lowered his guard and missed the blow unexpectedly, and that segment would have defeated his brother if he hadn't cheated. This excuse was pathetic because he had been defeated by an opponent of a lower rank and was now excusing himself for simply missing a punch, despite having been beaten unconscious. The son immediately started apologizing, but the old man asked him what he did after losing the fight. He responded that he was gathering information about Jim. His father became angry, finding it ridiculous that he needed other information. Then, BM Chun shouted that he knew his older brother had given something to Jin, but his father refused to listen. His son was back to being a selfish scoundrel, and he immediately kicked Baek Mian out. Chun. But as he began to leave, his father questioned how he planned to make Jin surrender, knowing Jin's family's creed very well. The Divine Sword, strength and orders are paramount, and he should force his brother to surrender. Then, who knows what might happen, and perhaps, with that kind of pressure, Baek Mian-kun would break through and become an elder. From their window, Jin and Blackstone watched Baek Mian-kun remain motionless, hanging out on the streets like any ordinary loser, when suddenly, a massive crack appeared in the sky above Korea, larger than anything ever witnessed before. Under their window for hours, Jin said he wouldn't be coming to them soon, but it seemed he had spoken with his father. Even in his past life, his father had placed them against each other in this tense situation. People were involved, especially since he was defeated by his younger brother, something his father couldn't ignore. That's why he always reprimanded the eldest for showing such weakness. And Baek Mongon went to Jin more than once after his father spoke to him and humiliated him. It didn't take long for them to fight with him again, but it was surprising how everyone in this family was willing to fight at any given moment. Jin thought it was a great opportunity for them, as he could vent his anger on his attacker at any time and teach him a lesson. So, paternity was not insignificant. He continued training and didn't focus on the bastard, especially since the training was also taking a toll on him. Blackstone, in a positive way, was also growing stronger. He instructed Jin to focus once more, and the result would surpass his initial attempt. He instructed him to concentrate on the power flowing to him during meditation, to hold it not only within his heart but throughout his entire being. He told Jin that this was a method for training the aura of Cain. The power feels like a waterfall crashing through his senses. He had experienced something similar before. It overflows his body and everything surrounds him. This man, Cain, bears a striking resemblance to someone. He resembles Blackstone because he times Blackstone. Jin snapped back to reality and realized that it was already perfectly so. Not even the association could have predicted the consequences that the crack would bring. The crack was of immense proportions, and people fled in terror. Knight. Blackstone congratulated the knight. Even though he had been preoccupied with other thoughts during his meditation, the status window indicated that there had been put stability into the power core and had successfully completed the task. He couldn't believe he had actually done it, that he had finished the task in the one he had previously failed at. Blackstone marveled at Jin's success. He knew Jin was smart, but the speed at which he learned Laura's training was special. They added another 100 points due to Blackstone's astonishment, but Jin denied that anything like that had occurred. Jin asked the servant to be more surprised more often, as he didn't usually act so foolishly, especially after meeting Jin. The boy was satisfied with his results, and then asked if that was Cain's method, his way of meditating. Blackstone confirmed that it was, and Jin realized that his aura originated from Rasad. Blackstone didn't know. Who he was didn't matter. It was his first time in this world, and all he knew was that Jin's stats were high. Blackstone figured that if the boy had, luckily, it was thanks to him that Jin had accumulated so many points, and Blackstone suggested he invest them in one thing, promising the result would be special. So Jin decided to invest some points in fencing, a decision that surprised the fairy. He didn't understand why he had done it, as it seemed useless, but he still didn't challenge his master. Jin had few points and couldn't increase all of his characteristics. How was he going to train wisdom? For that, he needed to improve his strength and his aura. Surrounded by chaos, the guy hurried to run as well, hoping to avoid any harm. He ran through an alley and suddenly detected a terrible odor that made him. So he started training immediately. Blackstone asked him if his older brother wasn't targeting him right now, but the boy argued, as always, that he wouldn't go after him now, choosing to wait instead. But his foundation wasn't solid enough. He needed to increase his aura, and for that, he had the perfect punching bag. By punching bag, he meant his brother, whom he wanted to go after right now. Blackstone understood that the guy was 24 years old in real time, but his powers were only slightly above his brother's. Their confrontation could be dangerous, but Jin knew what he was doing and told Blackstone to just watch. Just watch. He really went crazy. Baek Kunun saw his brother and immediately adopted a fighting stance, ready to attack. But it was his sister, Nuna. She was surprised to see him and asked if he was ashamed. He didn't know what she meant, so she told him that she had already. Realizing he had lost to his younger brother, which was humiliating given their ranks, he had been too slow to recognize Jin as a threat. Mocking him, he turned and walked away. The man was incredibly furious, and just then, Jin appeared behind him and laughed. Judging by his brother's expression, he clearly wasn't used to this position. Beckham immediately told his brother that if he didn't shut his mouth, he would kill him. Much to their surprise, Jin had no intention of backing down. Instead, he immediately offered to fight. This shocked the man. Cover his nose with his hand. He froze in place when he realized the source of the smell. The entire road was littered with the corpses of dead people. What had happened to his brother, who had never been a fighter, who was weak and unable to defend himself? It was as if another man was standing before him, and he could feel it. Scared and cornered, and having only mastered his aura a few days prior, what could have changed him so drastically? Jin had said that his brother wouldn't need a sword, that he was supposed to kill him with his bare hands. Baek Chun abruptly stood from his seat, determined not to be defeated this time, but it ultimately didn't matter. How many times did he attack? Jin didn't dodge, stating that he could feel his strategy. It hadn't changed since their last fight, still aiming for his head as he had attacked before, and defeated him. Jin then seized the initiative in the fight and began to throw blows that his brother couldn't dodge, utilizing all the new abilities he had learned through days of rigorous training, surprising his brother with them. Baek Chun couldn't understand how it was possible. At the end of the day, he had killed his brother, and this time he was knocked out cold. Jin was pleased to have put his new skills into practice. Blackstone thought that, without a doubt, he was the craziest knight he had ever met. After a while, they arrived in the town. Those enormous houses reminded the servant of a forest made of cement. He asked the guy why they were there, and he told him that now that he was making full use of aura, all aura users. Aura must register with the association. Jin and Blackstone arrived at the center. Jin stated that he wanted to register as a swordsman user. The girl had him fill out the work with the leaders, assisting them and training hunters. In this way, they earned honor and respect among the people. But many such families, hungry for power, also began to dead. The boy thought he was unlucky in his search for shelter when he suddenly heard footsteps behind him. As he turned around, he, first-rank swordsman form, and told him that she would check his aura level. After a while, as Jin began to fill out the form, the girl, she looked at what he had written with surprise, asked him his name again, and inquired if she had understood correctly that the man was a member of the family. Royal of the Divine Sword. Jin laughed, saying that he had simply written that surname on the form. Then the girl told him that a member of the B family had already come here last month, and that he was a very unpleasant man, but unfortunately, she didn't remember his name or what he looked like. It was the first time she had seen him, but Jin was completely different from this family. He was very kind and handsome, and he couldn't possibly be related to them. Jin was embarrassed, and Blackstone asked the boy if he cared about his origins, but he remained the same. He still wanted to destroy them all. His certificate. He was registered and now had to input his aura data, thanking the employee for her assistance. As Blackstone walked back, he noticed that his teacher was very happy because, in his previous life, Jin had received his first certificate at the age of 24. Blackstone commented that the boy was acting like a 15-year-old, but there would be more surprises to come, so it was too early to be surprised, as everything was still to come. Suddenly, they heard someone calling out to Jin. It was the receptionist, who had barely managed to catch up with Jeremias. She wanted to speak with him for a bit and told him that he was horrified to see a monster. Behind him, a huge ogre lunged at the boy and tried to crush him, but he managed to dodge the attack. This creature emerged from a crease. A dungeon had appeared not far from there, and they were missing a swordsman. She ran after him to offer him the job, considering there might already be people willing to take it. Also, there were people with connections, and this job would help him gain experience. They both realized that his kindness stemmed from Jin having spoken up as well. It was bad news for the Baek family, since he would now have talent. It would be good to test his skills in a real-world setting. There were vines, but they weren't much of a problem. It was different from his past life. He agreed to go, seeing it as an opportunity to test himself. After a while, he headed to his destination, where he was greeted by people from the association. Honing said that the boy was very lucky to enter the dungeon on his first day, and Jin responded that he would work very hard. Then, Honyanhu's colleague, Han Yun, whose classmate, asked him why he was speaking ill of the boy, especially since he is from the Baek family. But John didn't believe that a true member of the Baek family, the family, would be coming here to work in the dungeon. He told John to finish preparing everything quickly. Han asked the guy if he was really from the same family, and Jin simply responded that he didn't like those people. Han immediately told the guy not to say things like that because he obviously didn't want to get into trouble if someone happened to overhear those conversations and didn't report it to Blackstone. He admitted that he didn't think his reputation was that bad. Then Jin noticed a girl not far from them. He thought she reminded him of someone, but he couldn't figure out exactly who. Crack, and was incredibly strong, as its impact left a huge dent in the ground. The team wondered if they could survive in exile in such dire circumstances. He then remembered that it was Hua Yonghua from the Thundercloud Formation. She was the youngest daughter of the cruel Hua family of the Red Lotus. Red Lotus and Divine Sword were feuding families. Hua Yonghua was talented, but she was also hated because she trained alone, without any help from her family. They summoned her because everything was ready. She approached Jin, and he introduced himself to her. She did the same in turn, not suspecting that he already knew her, but she gave her last name incorrectly, hiding her origins. Han told them to hurry, as they were already waiting for them, and they all entered the dungeon together. John argued that, although moles posed little to no threat, they still needed to be careful, as they could hurt themselves on something or get lost. So, they had to be very careful. Hin explained to Blackstone that creeper moles are different. They live here and could be around, and they are huge, so big that they dug this tunnel. Black distrusted. Suddenly, they felt a tremendous vibration that reverberated throughout the entire cave. Han ordered everyone to be on guard. They saw huge monsters above, perched and observing the people below. Yongo said that facing these creatures would be very difficult. Even if they tried to escape from them, the moles would catch up, because even though they were almost blind, their hearing and sense of smell were far superior to that of humans. Even if they managed to take down at least one mole, its giant claws would still pose a significant danger. The vines around their necks looked very stiff, so they would have to find another way. Jin unsheathed his sword until he could reach the association. The scars on his arm were visible. He knew that if he tried to flee, the ogre would immediately catch up to him. He returned to preparing for the fight, but in this environment, fighting wasn't the best option. Jin already had experience with moles in his past life. Suddenly, one of the a monster lunged at them, but Yomu was able to dodge it. There were a lot of moles, and they were everywhere, literally surrounding the team. They attacked and growled relentlessly. The mole jumped in their direction, but missed, kicking up a cloud of dust that engulfed the entire space and severely limited visibility. There were no injuries among the team, but even so, their job was complicated. Jin had to be especially careful. He had no practical experience, and although he was strong, the moles were still quite dangerous for him. Blackstone yelled at the boy to get down and, if possible, wait for a better opportunity to attack, but Jin ignored him. He thought he knew better, since he had experience fighting them. At that moment, the Rasada Aura, a black wind, was added to his attack. This ability would activate soon. The mole's weak point was its soft neck, which was covered by a vine, and all he had to do was find a spot where there were fewer vines. The rest of the mole's skin was rough, so the neck was the best place to target. Suddenly, a monster appeared behind Yuno and was about to attack him, but Janbar rushed to his aid. He disarmed the monster with a single punch and saved his companion. He looked at Jin and pointed at him mockingly. It's true that you only have to aim for the neck to defeat them. After all, you can defeat them. Dodge the monster's attack by bouncing to the other side. Without a vein in his arm and an aura, he couldn't kill this monster. All he could do was wait. Simply by using brute force, they disarmed most of the monsters. The moles attacked them as soon as the team entered the cave, but those monsters didn't. Common sense would dictate that. Yungu told Jin that everyone tries to avoid the vine moles, so there is hardly any information available about them. So, how did he know about the monster's weakness? He said he had been told about it once in class and that he had been looking up information about the moles before going down into the dungeon. He didn't want to tell Blackstone anymore, as he thought Blackstone already knew enough about his past. Everyone was surprised by how aggressive and strong the moles were. It was a surprise to everyone. Han wondered if the mole's skin had become so rough. It seemed suspicious. They stopped. There were two paths ahead. They were fortunate that the association had instructed them to kill the moles, and now they could split into two groups. Suddenly, they came across a massive mole that was glaring at them. It had the chief's seal on its forehead, which initially seemed to be the reason for the mole's strength. but that wasn't the case. Of course, they were exploring here. Hin informed Blackstone that this mole was the dungeon's guardian, and even though the association compensates for such hardships, these situations make the clearing much more difficult. The greater the reward, the harder the work and the tasks become. But this dungeon is only slightly easier than a rank 2 dungeon. Yang told the team not to worry about the boss, assuring them that she would handle everything, and that, for the association to arrive, he attempted to attack the ogre, but when he failed, he threw the guy against the wall. The ogre was simply too fast. He stared at they would have to take care of the other moles. So, she concealed herself in one of the tunnels, leaving the team unsure of what they should do. They didn't think Janba had enough skills, but at the same time sending her there alone. Jin argued that he shouldn't worry about the ringleaders inside these dungeons. He had read about it, but no one believed him since it was his first time there. John Woo suggested that Jin leave the boy behind so they could take care of everything. Meanwhile, Jin thought about it and decided that they should help Yonghua. He told Jin to run away immediately if he saw Yonghua was in danger, and that they would take care of the moles. Then he left immediately. Blackstone asked him why he had volunteered to help, and Jin told him that he had to eliminate the mole personally in order to get the reward he had been promised. Then, he received the surprise mission of defeat the mole boss before anyone else could. Jin was relieved that such a task had arrived just in time, and he was willing to risk his life to complete it, risking his life at a time when he had already died once before. Blackstone had never seen or even heard of these moles, but, despite everything, he considered them to be rather peculiar creatures. These monsters are new to the area, but they are much weaker than they appear. They have long legs, take wide steps, and tire very quickly as a result. They are easy to catch, so no one bothered looking for any weak points 10 years ago, before a guy with red eyes was preparing to kill him, just like he had done to the others. The guy didn't want to die. He had to get revenge on the Bae family for everything they had done. Strategy was created. The moles were a little different, but Jin has changed too. He has grown stronger and now possesses the strength to overthrow the Bae family. At that moment, he saw that Yanba had already met up with the two moles and breathed a sigh of relief, realizing she hadn't reached the boss yet. He quickly ran over to her and she saw him, called out to him, and asked why he was in such a hurry. He told her he was going to see the mole boss, to which Yonha responded that she would take care of it herself. "Boss, this is too dangerous," Jin said, and if Jin wanted to offer help to her, she would refuse. Jin retorted that he wasn't going to help her. He was going to kill him himself. Yonha was dumbfounded by his statements. But on the other hand, she figured that if the guy had just achieved his first rank today, he probably didn't understand everything. And everything. This wasn't a game. He came here in plain clothes, without any training whatsoever. And on top of that, he's being selfish, practically begging Blackstone to kill him. He asked the boy how he felt after everything that had been said, but Jin decided to propose a bet to Yonghua. She thought she was imagining things, but Jin explained what he meant. He would fight the main mole first, and if he didn't defeat the boss within 3 minutes, then it would be her turn. As an added reward, the winner had the right to ask the loser for something. The girl thought Jin had hit his head, since she thought that amount of time was not enough to defeat such a monster. That wasn't even enough time for a third-rank user. The boss was already. So, he gathered himself and ran around the ogre as fast as he could, brandishing an iron club. At that moment, he began to remember how was here, so she didn't have time to think. She accepted all of Jin's suggestions, not caring because she didn't believe he would kill the monster. And while he had so much time to rest that even Blackstone doubted Jin's abilities, but based on his experience and calculations, Jin was more confident than ever. Even a minute should be enough, which was hard to believe. Personnel and their calculations. Even 1 minute should be enough, which was hard to believe. Mole Yonghua didn't understand how he could make such an absurd bet if it was just to get his attention. Now she understood why Jin was looking at her so strangely. Blackstone told Jin that she had begun to look at him without taking her eyes off him. The guy explained it by saying that Jin was ruining his plans, but the real reason seemed to be something else entirely. At that moment, the mole removed the vine and started trying to strike with it. Jin dodged it, and, for a moment, was able to get close to the monster. He was within. He kept a safe distance from him and was ready to attack. Yanhua watched all of this. El Topo was making big moves, so it was much better this way. He kept dodging, but he was getting tired. At this point, his Rasad aura activated, and the black wind slowed down the target's movements. He took advantage of this new ability and aimed at El Topo's neck. Yona was shocked by what she saw. She didn't understand how he could do it, since it took about 30 seconds to dominate the monster. He won the bet, and he also got 200 points and a surprise. Yonan couldn't believe that he was a rank 1 swordsman. How? They had humiliated him at school. And above all, he remembered the words of the gang leader, Oh Hun. As the ogre crushed his skull, the boy remembered. Had he been able to defeat the boss with his skills? He asked him a lot of questions because he didn't understand what had just happened. Jin asked him if he wanted to know how she had done it, and she replied that of course she wanted to know, but Jin said he would never tell her, which greatly angered Yeonghwa. He himself, he asked, and now he's just teasing her about it. No idiot would tell their secrets to anyone. Now that he has won, she is obligated by the rules to fulfill his request. She admitted that she underestimated him, thinking he was weak, which Jin didn't understand. She revealed that she was the Red Lotus of the Thundercloud formation and asked him to postpone her wish for later. She asked him how he knew she wasn't who she claimed to be, and Jin simply said that he guessed, since there weren't many warriors around right now. Yeonghwa looked at him and felt like she had lost to a mere brat. She got angry with him and told him that he was just like the Divine Sword's Baek family. Jin immediately retorted that he didn't. He liked his family, and it was easy for him to become tongue-tied when talking about them. Blackstone had realized that the guy was making fun of Yeonghwa with their expressions, but he knew he would do it. Yeonghwa calmed down, recomposed himself, and told Jin to look at the mole. A reward for completing the task appeared there. Task that was promised to whoever defeated the boss. It was a ring, and upon picking it up, Jin thought he should have the ring appraised. Blackstone said that he had that ability, and that he could do it. They saw that the bait mole ring exceeded all basic characteristics. Yona congratulated the guy for winning. How they had called him trash and a loser who disgraced his noble Baek family with his presence at the school. He didn't know where this power came from had made this bet based on his hasty conclusions, and yet, he didn't like what he said. At this moment, people from approached them. The association was surprised that Jeonha did so well. It was incredible that he defeated such a strong opponent, even though they had been worried. Yeonghwa said she didn't do it, but Jin did. Juwon looked at him, surprised. Everyone couldn't believe that he was the only one who had done it. Yeonghwa. He decided that next time he wouldn't let himself be defeated so easily. Jin was in a good mood because the first task was quite easy, and the people were nice to him. He would be rewarded for killing the mole boss, but he ended up winning twice. Blackstone told him not to be so sure that it was over so easily. It was hardly. It's unlikely that Yeonghwa will forget everything that happened and distance herself from Jin. Blackstone overheard Jin say in his conversation with Yeonwoo that he wasn't from the Baek family, but the boy claimed he never said that. He only said he didn't like them. Even so, Jin was still a little upset with Blackstone's behavior. Suddenly, Jin saw two young men who seemed to know they were there to accompany him. One was named Jun Hon-yuk and the other was Mon Ho-young. Blackstone. He said that having servants at that age was already a success, but the boy wasn't very happy. Jin told them it was too late today, so he had to leave, and that they would see each other tomorrow. But the servants informed him that, starting today, he would be staying in Monastery B, on the 8th floor. The owner of the house had ordered him to move there, appear, and among them were the worst. The old man stood in the room and asked the fighters about their core. At this moment, but he now had the opportunity to be where he was a year ago. A voice began to sound in his subconscious, telling him that there was, considering Jun's worth, he should be living in the ancestral home. The elder had also issued this decree. Jin was shocked by this news, but he would enter for a moment. He ordered his servants to wait for him outside. Once inside, he opened the doors to his room. It was large and empty. He was finally living in the house. Ancestral. Blackstone thought the guy was so happy he was about to cry, but Jin told him he was trying to maintain his composure. Blackstone. He said that he was dwelling too much on his past and that he needed to move on with his life. Jin interpreted it differently. He had already taken care of BM, Kunun, and now there were 6 other people left. Jin reflected on the fact that having so many people around in his era was already outdated, even at an inament of 40, age like his father's. Blackstone steered the conversation in another direction, asking Jeremiah if he knew the two who were now his servants, Munju. The Yongla era felt familiar. Jinla had been told to keep an eye on him in his past life. He wasn't even aware of it then, but now he could feel his presence thanks to his sensitivity. He didn't understand why his father had assigned Black Sword level fighters to him. They were something akin to elite guards, so he had his attention from their father, and they probably should leave. They were already downstairs, and Hin thanked the servants for their work and told them that they could retire for today, but he suddenly stopped Mun Chuyan, telling him to keep his distance the next time he watched him because each of them had begun the passage of 1,000 swords and had earned the title of Magic Swordsman. After a while, the boy opened his eyes and found himself in a place, have their own space. He hadn't expected to be seen. Blackstone tried to reason with Jin so that he wouldn't rush into things, but as always, he didn't listen. It was about a father that Blackstone didn't know at all as a man, but Jin did. What if the servant told her she caught him spying on her? He would be pleased that his efforts had been noticed. Blackstone would never be able to understand this family. Jin offered to open the reward for the boss mole right now, since he was having such good luck. Why not? The cards reappeared before him, and Blackstone asked him to choose carefully. Responsibility. But it's like a game whose outcome cannot be predicted. He could win nothing, or he could hit the jackpot with such a random choice. Jin decided he would pick the card that caught his attention the most, and that was that. After choosing a card, he encountered a kind of mask that it made Blackstone's emotions surge uncontrollably. Even though the mask appeared to be the most unremarkable one from the most unremarkable workshop, Blackstone practically begged him to take a look at it, that unusual mask up close. Once again, the system showered him with rewards, and Blackstone was astounded by the guy's incredible luck. He explained to Jin that he wasn't crazy, and that it was a demonic transformation mask with a legendary rank. Jeremiah was equally dumbfounded. Apparently, he could now even change his appearance thanks to this mask. He wouldn't be able to change his height, but he could alter everything else within reasonable limits. He could deceive anyone. In a bright room, surprised that he had not been killed by an ogre, he remembered with horror the last images he had seen before. If he wanted to, he decided to test it out. Now, when he put it on, it prompted him with some questions. He chose an aura color and decided to try transforming into Mun Hyung, and at one point, he was an exact copy of the guy. It was incredible. Blackstone advised him to check if the color of his aura had changed, and upon checking, he saw that it had changed. It no longer seemed as cheap as the boy had originally thought. He was grateful to Blackstone for making him choose carefully his letter, and dreamed that one day Hyung would listen to all his advice. But Jin asked him if he had mentioned the name of the Kane Empire. Was that the name of his training method? What was it all about? Blackstone was stunned by what he was hearing. He couldn't say that the mask had absolutely nothing to do with them losing consciousness. The enormous ogre that the boy believed had killed him, but it had all been a dream. He didn't understand what was happening, and when he looked at his right arm, he noticed that 2 scars were missing. He was horrified because he didn't know what it meant or where his scars could have disappeared to. He looked around and realized that he was in the room where he had lived before his exile. The strangest thing was, the feeling of power emanated from the vein in his right arm and the aura within his heart. Suddenly, he heard a notification on his phone, saw a number, and realized that he had traveled back 10 years and was in the Baek family building. Divine Sword Jin panicked, unable to even comprehend everything that was happening. Ironically, he was once again part of the family that had once taken everything from him, a time that represented the most horrible moment of his life. He didn't know how any of it had happened. He punched himself in the face, thinking that everything was now just a realistic dream, but he still felt everything as he had once lived it. And, principle, the creed of the Divine Sword family. They unanimously responded that their creed was strength above all else, and obedience to orders. It felt absolutely nothing like a dream. Suddenly, the man behind him, startled, asked him if he was crazy as he continued to slap himself in the face, cheeks. The man turned around and said that he had been caught this time by a strange and foolish knight, but regardless, the contract was in effect, so there was no harm in them meeting. The man's name was Blackstone, and he was the magic sword that brought ruin to noble families. Real. It was hard to believe that Blackstone, who was standing right in front of him, wasn't a wizard, especially since there was no one else around. But what contract and what magic sword? Magical? The guy had never been involved in anything like this before. He couldn't understand how 2020 years could have already passed, and generally, he thought he was dead. Blackstone looked at him thoughtfully because normally everyone throws tantrums, but this guy was surprisingly calm. So, he figured he had one. With a good head on his shoulders, he went ahead and told them what was happening. All of their souls are linked by a magic sword contract. And now, the guy has become his master, and Blackstone has to supervise him to ensure his growth. He asked the boy to say the phrase out loud to access the status window. The boy didn't understand what it meant, so he asked the servant to repeat it, and he repeated the phrase to Jin. Literally everything he had said before, but as soon as he mentioned the status window again, the young man turned around and walked away towards the bed. On top of everything, The boy sitting on the ground overheard a group of boys humiliating him for being from the Baek Divine Sword family. He was definitely asleep, thinking, "This can't be real." Blackstone didn't understand why he was reacting that way, and wondered if it was some kind of hallucination. After death, when the soul departs for the afterlife, which isn't real, and their entire life flashes before their eyes, is Blackstone simply experiencing an imaginary hallucination, who is now talking to him about swords and contracts? Blackstone resented not being human, but he didn't expect the new master to react this way to the situation. Information. He insisted that the boy say the phrase, and then he would understand, but Jin had already gotten into bed, deciding that it was just another trick, stratagem by his enemies, Bohun, to deceive him and make him look ridiculous again. Then Blackstone, hearing the name, asked the boy if Bohun was his enemy. "Is this the man who wants to avenge his humiliation and who you must defeat? He could help you with that." So Jin got out of bed and asked if it was possible. Blackstone assured him that the contract was specifically for that purpose. He only needed to say a code phrase, fulfilling the condition of trusting him. The boy wondered if he was telling the truth, because his regression was illogical, yet it still happened, and he desperately needed this opportunity that he'd had all along. Desperately. He recalled all the injustice he had endured when he was humiliated by Oh-hun, and the day his power was stolen from him. He didn't deserve it, because it clearly meant more to him than they realized. But now he had the chance to take revenge on the Baek family for everything. He told Blackstone that, since he was lucky enough to be in that position, but, on second thought, he was considered the weakest of all those studying there. They asked him if he knew his family's creed, to which he responded. He didn't completely trust him, but if he did, as he was told, then he would believe him. The servant agreed, and then Jin spoke the code phrase, status, and obtained all the information about himself. Before him, at 15 years old, he stood without any special traits or abilities, but he did possess the status of a bearer of a magic sword. His results were miserable. Absolutely every category was in the lowest range. Blackstone thought the same, but, however, Jin's intelligence category was at a medium level, which wasn't bad at all, and Jin noticed that Blackstone's expression had changed. He explained these changes to the boy, saying that since Jin was weak, his servant would reflect that appearance, and changing Blackstone's appearance would make Jin stronger and more self-confident. He showed him that his original form was a small dagger and that the strength he possessed was reflected in his appearance. Jin wondered how it was possible that the man would abruptly transform into a small sword. Then Blackstone said that he could only recover his original form and powers upon reaching a certain level. Those were the conditions of the contract. Jin called it ridiculous, as he thought he would die of old age before Blackstone could regain his former powers, given that he had no talent or ability whatsoever. But the servant told him that was precisely why he liked him, saying that it's not fun at all to encounter knights who are already quite strong, and that it's much more interesting when weak clients like family, to which he responded with the family motto. They laughed at him and showed him a letter from the elder, stating that he had been expelled from the Jin appear, allowing him to teach them everything from scratch. He has to suffer in order to try and improve himself and achieve his goals. Blackstone suffered for 200 years in the void, so, undeterred by life's hardships, Jin wondered if his survival meant he was given a second chance. He told his servant that he agreed to enter into a magical contract with him, and the servant, pleased, decided to get to work, instructing his I love a task called The Resistance is a National Force. Jin didn't expect something like this. It reminded him of a computer game with levels and tasks, and it seemed strange, but Blackstone said it was his way of keeping the guy informed of his progress and achievements, even though it all seemed dated. There have always been ways to notify, and this fit into this timeline. Once upon a time, owners received letters from Once Upon a Time books, and the master's growth was irrelevant, as he had remained unchanged since day one, continually and relentlessly pushing his limits. What if Jin were listening? To be his servant? Even a fool like him would be considered a genius by others. Jin wondered why, out of everyone, he had been chosen and hired. Him, because there are plenty of people like him, almost everyone in fact. Then Blackstone told him that he would reveal the reasons for the contract and his desire for a magic sword. After the commission, Jin was wary, but the servant rushed him, as it was almost time to perform the task. Blackstone constantly scolded family due to his lack of talent. The consequence of this banishment was the removal of a vein from the boy's right arm and the aura from his heart. Jin for not knowing how to position his body properly during training, for forgetting how to breathe correctly, for not bending his knees properly while running. Jin was only told to run, resulting in many mistakes. The servant then said that Jin had understood. He was wrong about what was expected of him, that his job was to make his master stronger and more resilient, and that he needed to listen to his advice in order to push past his limitations. Personal. If he kept making so many mistakes, it was clear that the boy wasn't ready for this, but Blackstone wasn't going to listen to his whining, and for Metter, he continued to insist on the correct body position, hand placement, knee bend, and breathing technique. If nothing changed, this training would be pointless, but Jin didn't want to hear any more reprimands and continued to do whatever he pleased, thinking that he could succeed that way. Blackstone looked at the boy and saw his stubborn nature, which was becoming more and more. It was interesting to observe, although I didn't understand why his skills were so low when his intellect was clearly so high. Jin continued running, and Blackstone joked that he walked as if he could see his legs, which angered his master, causing him to strive to run even faster. Blackstone, he watched with great determination, focused on the task at hand. He could definitely relate to Baek Ho-hun, but then, in horror, Blackstone noticed a feeling of hatred wash over Jin's body. How could so much hate fill the body of a 5-year-old boy? How could there be so much hate